The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days, turning the dusty Texas road into a river of red mud. A pickup truck's headlights cut through the mist, its engine humming low against the sound of the storm. Inside sat a man in his early 40s, broad-shouldered, rough around the edges, but with eyes that carried the loneliness of too many years spent in silence. His name was Ethan Cole, a rancher who lived miles from town, a man who hadn't spoken much since his wife died 5 years ago. He wasn't looking for company. He wasn't looking for love, but that night, fate had other plans. He slowed when he saw something by the roadside, a figure, small and soaked, clutching a bundle wrapped in a tattered blanket. The woman tried to wave, then stumbled. Ethan's jaw tightened as he pulled over. He stepped into the rain, boots sinking in the mud, and saw her face, bruised, pale, terrified. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "Please, help us." That was the moment that would change both their lives. "You're coming with me," Ethan said firmly, though his tone carried more warmth than command. The woman hesitated, clutching the bundle tighter. A faint cry rose from inside, an infant's cry. Ethan's heart twisted. "You got a baby there?" he asked. "3, she said weakly. "They're triplets, all girls." He looked at her for a long moment. Then, without another word, he took the blanket from her shaking hands, held it close, and guided her into his truck. The sound of rain faded behind them as he drove off into the darkness, unaware that what began as a rescue would soon turn into redemption. By the time they reached the ranch, the storm had softened into a drizzle. The house stood quiet and empty, a ghost of the life Ethan once had. He led her inside, lighting the old fireplace. The woman sat near it, shivering, her arms wrapped protectively around her babies. "What's your name?" Ethan asked, hanging his soaked hat on a hook. "Clara," she whispered. "Clara Brooks." He nodded. "You?" "Hungry." She nodded silently, tears streaking her dirt-stained cheeks. Ethan heated a pot of soup, watching her from the kitchen. She looked fragile, as if one wrong word could make her shatter completely. But when she looked at her babies, her face softened, strength flickering in her tired eyes. When she finally spoke again, her voice was barely audible. "My husband, he didn't want girls, said I failed him, said I cursed him. When the third one came, Her voice broke. She pressed her hands to her face, trembling. "He beat me, left me to die." Ethan froze, spoon halfway to the bowl. For a moment, the room was silent except for the crackling fire. Then he walked over, placing the bowl gently before her. "Eat," he said quietly. "You're safe here." She looked up, eyes wide. "Why are you helping me?" Ethan stared into the fire. "Because once, someone helped me when I didn't deserve it either." Days turned into weeks. Clara healed slowly, both her body and her spirit. Ethan fixed the roof, repaired the barn, and cleared the fields. Sometimes she'd watch him from the porch as the sunset spilled gold across the horizon. Her babies cooed in her arms, and for the first time in months, she felt peace. Ethan grew attached to the sound of laughter in his house again. The girls' tiny giggles filled the silence that had haunted him since his wife's death. He found himself leaving milk by Clara's door each morning, repairing a loose hinge before she noticed, even carving small wooden animals for the babies at night. But not everyone in town shared his kindness. One morning, Sheriff Dan rode up the dusty path. He was an old friend of Ethan's, though not a gentle one. "Heard you got a woman out here," the sheriff said, spitting tobacco into the dirt. "Her husband's been asking around, says she took his kids, wants her back." Ethan's jaw tightened. "She's not going anywhere." Dan frowned. "You can't just keep another man's wife. She's not his anymore," Ethan growled. "Not after what he did." "Law don't see it that way," the sheriff replied. "You better be ready for trouble." And trouble came sooner than expected. That evening, Ethan saw headlights approaching. A truck skidded to a stop outside the ranch. A man stepped out, broad, mean, eyes wild with rage. Clara froze the moment she saw him. "Get inside," Ethan told her. Her husband Paul stormed toward the porch, shouting, "You think you can steal my family, cowboy?" Ethan met him halfway. "You left them to die." Paul swung, but Ethan caught his wrist and twisted, forcing him down into the dirt. "You'll never touch them again," Ethan said coldly. "Not while I'm breathing." Paul spat at his boots, but the fight was gone from his eyes. Sheriff Dan arrived just in time to see it all. He didn't arrest Ethan. Instead, he cuffed Paul and said quietly, "I saw the bruises myself. She's staying here." Months passed. Spring painted the ranch in wildflowers and sun. Clara began to smile again, her laughter carrying through the open windows as she played with her daughters. Ethan would watch from the fields, feeling something stir inside him. A sense of belonging he thought he'd lost forever. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Clara walked out to where Ethan was mending a fence. "You never asked for anything in return," she said softly. "Why?" Ethan wiped his hands on his jeans. "Didn't need to. Sometimes, saving someone saves you right back." She looked at him, eyes shining. "You gave me a home when I had nothing left. My girls will grow up knowing kindness because of you." He smiled, faint and quiet. "Maybe that's all any of us can hope for." As the wind swept across the golden fields, one of the babies crawled toward Ethan and grabbed his boot. He bent down, lifting her into his arms. She giggled and tugged at his beard, and for the first time in years, Ethan laughed, a deep, honest sound that filled the open air. Clara watched, tears glimmering in her eyes. The loneliness that had once haunted Ethan's ranch was gone, replaced by the laughter of 3 little girls and the warmth of a woman who had finally found safety. And though neither of them had planned it, love had quietly found its way into their hearts, steady, simple, and pure as the Texas sky after rain. In the end, Ethan didn't just rescue a woman and her children, he rescued himself. And for Clara, those 4 words he'd spoken that night, "You're coming with me," had become the start of a new life, one built not on fear, but on hope. Because sometimes, the greatest miracles begin with kindness from a lonely heart that simply refuses to walk away.